In all the years that I was warden there, you're the only man that ever made it over my wall.
So I read in the papers.
Yes, of course you did.
You don't remember, do you? I asked you. Now, I begged you, Jungle. Do you remember that? I had 2 weeks to go before I was released. And all I asked for is 1 hour. 1 hour to visit with that old man before he died. Do you remember that?
I was doing my job. You broke the law. You broke the law, and I was punished.
All I know is I've only got 6 months left on my sentence.
In Gateway, 6 months could be a lifetime. Anything could happen. This is hard time, Frank. You have no rights here unless I give them to you. You feel no pleasure unless I tell you you can. This is hell.
The story opens with a prisoner named Frank, locked inside an extremely dangerous prison. The warden of this facility has a personal hatred toward him. For nothing more than talking back, Frank is thrown into a gas chamber. This chamber is a special cabin where poisonous gas is released to slowly suffocate a person. Frank is kept inside for a long time, and the pain becomes unbearable. A guard even tries to shut the gas off, but the warden coldly orders him to let it continue. Frank is pushed to the edge of death before the gas is finally stopped. His condition is critical. But why does the warden hate Frank so deeply? To understand that, we need to go back in time. Years earlier, Frank was a car mechanic, living a simple, peaceful life. He had a girlfriend, and the two of them were deeply in love. One day, she came to see him, and they shared a few beautiful moments together. Later, Frank went out to play with some kids. Everyone was laughing, smiling, and enjoying the moment. But that happiness didn't last long. After the game, his girlfriend dropped him off at a place that changed everything. Prison. Frank was already a convicted criminal, though not for anything major or violent. He was placed in a low-security prison where dangerous criminals were rare. The environment there was friendly. The guards were relaxed, and Frank quickly became everyone's favorite inmate. He never broke rules, never caused trouble, and because of his good behavior, the authorities allowed him to go home once a week. Frank had a mentor who taught him American rugby from childhood, someone he deeply respected. One day, that mentor was suddenly attacked by a group of men. Frank couldn't control himself and brutally beat those attackers, leaving them severely injured. Because of that incident, the court sentenced him to prison. When his mentor was on his deathbed, Frank begged the warden for permission to meet him one last time, even if only for an hour. The warden refused completely. Desperate, Frank escaped from prison. Frank spent his mentor's final moments beside him. Afterward, he surrendered himself to the police willingly. The prison he escaped from was considered impossible to break out of, and no one had ever succeeded before. Frank's escape made national headlines, and the media portrayed him as a hero. However, the escape added 5 more years to his sentence. Even then, Frank returned to prison life without breaking a single rule. 4 years passed, and now only 2 months remained before his release. Then, everything collapsed in a single night. While Frank was in his cell, guards from another prison arrived without warning and forcibly transferred him. Frank was confused and said he had never been informed of any transfer. The guards simply replied that this was how they operated. The new prison was nothing like the old one. This was a maximum security facility filled with murderers, psychopaths, and hardened criminals. The biggest shock came when Frank saw the warden. It was the same man from the prison he had escaped years ago. After Frank's escape, that warden had lost his reputation, been demoted, and ridiculed by his colleagues. Now, he finally had a chance for revenge. Upon arrival, an officer explained the strict rules to Frank, warning him that even the smallest mistake would lead to brutal punishment. Soon after, Frank was brought face to face with the warden. The warden accused him of becoming a media hero while destroying his career. Once respected nationwide, he was now a joke. Frank calmly replied that the warden was at fault for denying him a final meeting with his dying mentor. That response meant nothing to the warden. All he saw was revenge. Frank's first punishment for speaking back was the gas chamber, the same place where the story began. Inside this prison was a feared inmate named Chink, the warden's personal enforcer. Everyone was terrified of him. The warden ordered Chink to make Frank suffer until his release, to leave him half dead. One day in the prison yard, Chink and his men surrounded Frank. Chink held a sharp, ice-breaking tool, deadly enough to kill instantly.
That's my spot. That's my spot, too.
Any spot in here that isn't yours?
Nope, they're all mine. You want to use it, you gotta pay.
Just as he was about to strike, a security officer arrived. Seeing the weapon, the officer moved in, but Chink used the crowd to hide it. When questioned, Frank denied seeing any weapon. He wanted no trouble.
Where's your witness? Where's your evidence? He saw it. He didn't see anything.
You saw him carrying the shank, right?
I didn't see nothing.
All he wanted was to survive and walk free in 2 months. Frank was later assigned cleaning duty, where he met another inmate named Dallas. Dallas revealed that he had been in Frank's previous prison and praised him for escaping. He warned Frank that the warden would never let him live peacefully and suggested they escape together. Frank refused. He didn't need to run anymore. His freedom was only 2 months away. Still, somewhere in Dallas's mind, there was hope that Frank might eventually change his decision. So he told him that he could get him a mechanic's job in the prison garage. Frank agreed immediately. Dallas took him there, but the head mechanic rejected him on the spot, saying,
"The only thing you brought here is trouble. As you can see, the bulls ain't got no problem with me, and I ain't got no problems with the bulls. Hey, look, I don't owe you or nobody nothing. Hey, you, get your face out of that motor."
And Frank, we can work this out, man. We're all gentlemen here.
That's all right. It's his place. He knows what he wants. It's okay. Thanks anyway.
After that, Dallas revealed his escape plan. He wanted to crawl through an upward ventilation pipe to get out. Frank warned him that the temperature inside that pipe was so extreme that he wouldn't survive it. Hearing this, Dallas's confidence faded instantly. The next day in the mess hall, a new inmate arrived named Biano. He was innocent-looking and timid, and other prisoners constantly harassed him. Frank stepped in, helped him, and sat beside him. Biano clearly stated that he didn't want to join any gang. While they were talking, chaos erupted nearby when one prisoner killed another using the same sharp ice-picking tool. Biano was terrified. Frank told him bluntly that if he didn't join a group, the same thing would eventually happen to him. That fear pushed Biano to join Frank and Dallas's group. The following day, Chink challenged Frank to a rugby match. Frank accepted. What followed was a brutal game where Chink and his men cheated openly, repeatedly attacking Frank under the excuse of gameplay. But Frank was a powerful athlete and had expected dirty tactics. He countered every attack with precision and strength. The head mechanic, who had earlier refused to hire Frank, was watching the match. Seeing Frank's determination and skill shook him deeply. He stepped into the game himself and began beating down Chink's men. With his support, Frank's team won the match. Afterward, the mechanic told Frank that he could start working in the garage the next day. When Frank arrived at the garage, the mechanic showed him around. There stood an old broken Mustang. The mechanic explained that it was his favorite car, but its engine was completely dead and would never run again. Frank asked if he could try fixing it just once. Smiling, the mechanic replied that if Frank managed to repair the car, he would grant him anything he asked for.
That's my baby.
Believe?
Yeah, this is my baby.
Nice. It's last time you turned this thing over.
She's been dead for 15 years. A couple of guys tried to get her going and couldn't.
Mind if I give it a try?
It's a dead issue, Frank.
Nothing's dead around here until it's buried, is it?
Frank immediately got to work. He studied manuals, dismantled the engine, and poured everything he had into restoring the car. Within days, the Mustang's engine roared back to life. He even repainted it, making it look brand new. He sat in the driver's seat with Biano beside him. Biano admitted that he didn't know how to drive, so Frank taught him. Emotional, Biano asked if he would ever be able to drive the car again. Frank answered with a single word: no. That was enough.
Come on, first, turn it off.
Frank, if I turn it off, I ain't never gonna turn it on again, right, Frank?
That's right. Turn it off first.
First, sorry, Frank.
Biano suddenly drove the Mustang into the prison yard and sped around the ground several times. Hearing the noise, the warden arrived and witnessed everything. He knew perfectly well that Biano was responsible, but he dismissed him, seeing a perfect opportunity to punish Frank instead. The warden handed Chink a baseball bat and ordered him to destroy the car. Right in front of Frank's eyes, Chink smashed the Mustang into pieces. Tears filled Frank's eyes. Days of hard work, effort, and hope were destroyed in seconds. As punishment, Frank was thrown into a dark isolation room. There, bright lights were flashed on him multiple times a day to prevent him from sleeping. Whenever he began to drift off, guards would wake him and force him to say his name on camera. Frank endured it all. Days passed in that cell, and his mental state slowly began to collapse. One day, when asked his name, he answered incorrectly. Guards immediately rushed in and beat him brutally. At that moment, the prison captain arrived, saw everything, and ordered them to stop. He knew Frank had been treated unjustly. The captain removed Frank from the cell and informed him that several letters from his girlfriend had been withheld. That day, Frank received them all. Every letter was filled with love, hope, and encouragement. Reading them lifted his spirit, and for the first time in a long while, he felt that things might finally improve. Freed from isolation, Frank returned to the garage to meet his friends. Biano apologized, saying that he deserved the punishment, not Frank. Frank calmly replied that it no longer mattered. He had already spent 40 days in this prison. Only 20 remained before his freedom. The next day in the mess hall, Chink approached Frank, grabbed his food tray, and walked away. Frank said nothing. Instead, his friends quietly shared their food with him. When the warden learned about this, his anger intensified. He summoned Chink and ordered him to do something, anything, that would extend Frank's sentence. And that's when Chink and his men began planning their next move. Chink summoned both Frank and Biano to the gym. The moment they entered, Chink and his men attacked them viciously. They were beaten mercilessly, but Biano was clearly the main target. In the chaos, Chink lifted a massive bench press rod and dropped it directly onto Biano's body. The impact was fatal. Biano died instantly from the pain and trauma. When Frank realized what had happened, his rage exploded. He understood that this was all part of a plan to keep him trapped inside the prison. The warden had wanted Frank to fight Chink, and now he had crossed every limit to make it happen. Frank decided he would no longer stay silent. He stormed out, faced Chink and his gang, and attacked them with pure fury. Every punch carried the weight of his anger. This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was revenge for his friend's death. Frank struck Chink so hard that he crashed onto the same bench where Biano had been killed. For a moment, Frank considered killing him the same way, but then he noticed the warden watching closely from his office window. Frank immediately understood the trap. The warden wanted him to kill Chink so his sentence would increase and he could be tortured for life. Frank refused to give him that satisfaction. At that exact moment, one of Chink's men attacked Frank from behind, injuring him badly. Frank was rushed to the medical room where his girlfriend was allowed to meet him for 30 minutes. Seeing each other filled them with happiness. Their love was still strong, but within 5 minutes, guards arrived and dragged her away. Later that night, while Frank was back in his cell, another inmate approached him and announced that he would be released the next day. He threatened Frank, saying that once free, he would go straight to Frank's girlfriend. He even showed Frank her photo. The threat shook Frank deeply. Frank begged the guards for permission to make a phone call, but they refused. That's when Dallas appeared. Frank told him urgently that he had to escape immediately. Dallas reminded him that he had only a few days left on his sentence, but Frank explained that if he stayed, his girlfriend would be killed. Understanding the danger, the two began planning their escape.
Ready for it?
They first knocked out the guard on duty. Then they climbed over the prison wall and reached a junction where the path split in 2 directions. Frank said they should go right. Dallas insisted on going left, claiming he knew the route.
No, what? It's this way, man. It's a shortcut to the steam plant.
It's this way.
No, man, I remember the map.
Trusting him, Frank followed. Moments later, they walked straight into the warden and several guards. Frank was captured instantly. He realized Dallas had betrayed him. When Frank demanded an explanation, Dallas confessed that he had received a life sentence, and the warden promised him a chance at freedom if he helped trap Frank. The warden announced that Frank's first escape attempt had added 5 years to his sentence, and this second attempt would add 10 more. He threatened to break Frank mentally over the next decade. Dallas begged to be released, reminding the warden that he had done everything asked of him. But the warden coldly replied that no one escapes his prison. He ordered his guards to beat Dallas brutally and throw him into the water. The warden then ordered the same punishment for Frank. When the guards attacked, Frank fought back with everything he had. One by one, he overpowered them, even throwing one guard into the water. As Frank tried to leave, Dallas called out, asking for forgiveness and begging to be taken along. Frank showed mercy and reached out his hand. At that moment, the guard in the water suddenly grabbed Frank and began choking him. Dallas quickly pulled out an electric cable and threatened to electrify the water if the guard didn't let Frank go. Forced to retreat, the guard released him. Frank escaped as alarms rang and the entire prison began searching for him. The warden, furious, ordered that Frank be captured alive. Moments later, Frank appeared behind him, pressing a knife to his throat. Frank said he had no intention of escaping to live as a fugitive forever. That wasn't a life worth living. Frank dragged the warden to the execution chamber and strapped him into the electric chair. Guards and the prison captain surrounded them with guns drawn. Frank taped his hand to the electric switch and warned them that if he was shot, his body would fall and activate the chair, killing the warden. The captain ordered everyone to stand down. Frank then demanded that the warden confess everything he had done. The captain urged the warden to speak, saying truth was better than death. The warden finally confessed, admitting that he had deliberately framed Frank, pushed him into violence, and manipulated events to extend his sentence out of personal hatred. He screamed in terror, but the chair never activated because Frank had already removed the fuse. Frank revealed that he never intended to kill the warden. He only wanted the truth exposed. The captain immediately ordered the arrest of both Frank and the warden. The warden was charged for abusing his authority and breaking multiple laws. 1 week later, Frank was permanently released from prison. Everything he had done was proven to be the result of the warden's conspiracy. The warden was fired and now faced criminal trial. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for amazing movie recaps. Thanks for watching. See you in next one.